can become involved in the bisocial campaign? I should say no right here because really, I think everybody in this room can become involved in the bisocial campaign because after all, buying social is really about using the power of your purchase for good. You control what you buy, how you buy. When you're looking for gifts, you can choose to buy from a social enterprise. That's the kind of power you have in your purchase. Jane Foundation will continue to lead with action. Our mandate is to create sustainable interventions in Jamaican communities, physical communities, and marginalized populations. We have formalized social enterprise model in Jamaica, which the Planning Institute of Jamaica, USAID, and many others have recognized as a best practice for community development. Social enterprise is about ordinary Jamaicans using the forces of the market to solve their own problems. Our only response, talking to everybody in this room, our only response is really to buy for good, buy social. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Opal, for clearly articulating why the social enterprise model is a best practice. Six clear things is that it promotes, it empowers, there is inclusion, profit, real demonstration in the incubatees that we have. It promotes partnership and importantly, sustainability. There was mentioned before that when this movement started, there was the absence of a framework within which the sector fits. And now we're happy to say that as we heard before, that the social enterprise is included in the MSME and entrepreneurship policy. And on that note, I'm going to invite Mr. Clifford Spencer, who is a director within the MSME unit within the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, to tell us about the development of the policy to support the social economy, and particularly what had happened with the limited review of the MSME and entrepreneurship policy and the social enterprise now being included. So help me welcome Mr. Spencer.
So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's good. It's just before lunchtime, so I wanted to get a warm good morning. All right. Everything is good? Seems as if we may have...
Can we double check if that presentation is queued?
Either way, let's go. Either way, I can speak about the MSME and entrepreneurship policy and where the issue of social enterprise fit in. All right. Well, first of all, let me thank Charmaine and the PIOJ, the SEBI team, and all the other stakeholders who contributed to the social enterprise being included in the MSME and entrepreneurship policy. So in 2016, the ministry decided to undertake a review, a limited review of the MSME policy, because the first policy was promulgated in 2013, but a lot of activity took place within that 3 years. The policy also had a built-in mechanism where it is reviewed every 3 years, so that all the different activities that took place within that period could be updated so that the current position of the economy is reflected within the policy. So why is why is a policy framework necessary, right? Why is including social enterprise into a policy framework necessary? A policy creates the framework around which stakeholders can plan, strategize, and generate output that can drive the sector forward. So if we're talking about best practices, we can only have best practice if we had planned and strategized as to what our outputs and our outcomes will be. So the fact that the social enterprise or social value creation is included in the policy, then we can think about how is it that we drive best practices for the social enterprise at the national level. So it is recognized at the ministry that the social economy addresses social ills such as crime, poverty, environmental degradation, unemployment, and marginalization of minority groups, right? So the policy in itself look at the fact that entrepreneurship is a means for creating social value in the economy, right? Entrepreneurship is also a means where people in vulnerable parts of the country or in vulnerable groups can seek to use their strengths to sort of mitigate some of the problems that they're having, right? So right across the board, we at the ministry think that if we push any form of entrepreneurship, then the country will actually go forward. All right? Additionally, Opal already defined what social enterprises are, but this is the definition taken from the policy. And just to also point out that the policy was reviewed because of inputs from our stakeholders. All right. Dr. Knife, who did the research that informed the social enterprise contribution to the policy, provided us with these statistics, right? You can see that approximately 767 jobs were created by social enterprises in 2015, right? This is important to the ministry because this shows that entrepreneurship at the social level is being created, that employment at the community level is being generated and that people are having more jobs. All right, so the updated MSME and entrepreneurship policy was passed, or the cabinet approved that the policy be submitted in Parliament as a green paper. Right? What this means is that it goes through one final consultation before being passed as a white paper, and at that point it becomes official documentation, or it becomes officially part of the governance framework of the country. The target for this to be completed is April 2018, so we have one final validation session left to be completed. All right. I went through this earlier, but just to point out that what we have included about social enterprise in the policy is not what we think, or is not what a limited amount of people think. It's actually gone through widespread consultation. We had workshops in Kingston, in Montego Bay, in Mandeville, representing the three counties or the three basic divisions of the country, right? These are the pillars of the policy, right? It's to create an enabling environment for social enterprise, increase financing to the sector, offer business development support, and fostering the entrepreneurial spirit. We look at social value creation under which social enterprises fall as the goal that will drive the activities in this space. I should also mention that the policy has a 5-year implementation plan. This implementation plan has within it strategies, KPIs, as well as indicating the responsible entities for championing those activities forward. Also, there's a monitoring and evaluation framework where all the different activities being undertaken in this space will basically be governed, and that the stakeholders will have their chance to give input as to whether or not we're meeting our objectives. All right, so based on the fact that the social enterprise is now included in the policy, these are the priority actions stated in the policy, right? These are the actions that collectively the social enterprise ecosystem will drive going forward. The first one is to ensure widespread awareness of the concept of social enterprises. The ministry and the PIOJ will not necessarily be doing this themselves, but we will be leveraging the support of all the different players within the ecosystem to achieve these. Also, we hope to ensure that all entities offering business development support are trained to provide capacity building services to social enterprises. Additionally, we want to promote creativity and innovation in entrepreneurship to address social issues. So if there are issues in your community that are affecting you, say there is crime, say there is unemployment, say there is environment, the gullies are not being cleaned or so on, we are looking at ways in which you can creatively use entrepreneurial activities to achieve the social outcome here. Additionally, we want to promote cross-fertilization of social capital building and MSMEs, right? We find that MSMEs and social enterprises share some of the same challenges, especially as it relates to financing and capacity building. So if there is cross-fertilization of ideas, then we can drive both sectors forward. From this slide, I'd like to also point out that MSME data as it relates to MSME or social enterprise is not readily available in Jamaica. So part of the mandate going forward is to see how we can generate this type of national data, including agencies such as Statin and so on, right? And also, I should mention that part of our mandate also is to agree on a legal framework for social enterprises, right? This is work being done with the SEBI, PIOJ, and the ministry, and we are speaking to the Companies Office currently who are undertaking a limited review of the Companies Act to see where we can, infuse the legal structure for social enterprise here. Going back to the implementation plan, these activities have a 5-year timeline, right? It needs budgetary support, right? Across government, we want to see where is it that we can find resources to drive this implementation, especially among agencies that are really operating within that space. Moving on to the budget, it is estimated that $222 million is required to drive the sector at the government level. We know we always hear about complaints about the ministry and the government having problems finding money. Well, if we have this money, within the next 5 years, we can drive the mandate of social enterprise forward. All right, I mentioned this earlier, but just to indicate that the progress to date is that social enterprise is an established working group within the framework of the policy, and that the PIOJ and the ministry now chairs that working group, and we will include the relevant stakeholders that are operating within the ecosystem, both private and public. All right? I did also mention before that we intend to table the policy as a white paper at the end of this fiscal year. So that ends my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spencer. And I think that presentation nicely segued in terms of looking at how the model evolved in Jamaica and why the need for it to be within a policy framework to support the sector. We're going to open the floor now for about 10 minutes for any questions that persons may have based on the two presentations so far. There is a mic on the floor, so I invite any questions, any comments on the presentations. The presentations, I guess.
Okay, so currently we are establishing the terms of reference for that working group between PIOJ and the ministry, and we hope to finalize that when, Charmaine?
By the end of the month.
Yes, so we want to have our first working group meeting in December.
Okay. Any other questions? The presentations were that clear. I wanted, though, following on the conversation in the governance forum before, and in looking at the issue of sustainability, and particularly for the community development groups, one of the things we also have been promoting is the use of capacitating the CDCs a little bit more in terms of their ability to continue the work that they're doing. And CDCs normally have an issue in terms of the funding to continue the programs. And I know through USAID, the social enterprise model has been utilized as one business model that CDCs can adopt as a way in which they can generate income in a sustained manner that will allow them to continue the work that they are doing. So we see that there is some connection in terms of even supporting the governance structures at the community level. Let me just ask Ms. White, we heard her say that the project is coming to an end. What is the immediate or short-term plan in terms of once it's closed out, what is the next steps?
All right, so projects do have an end, that was, but we started out in 2012. I think USAID approved SEBI in 2012 as a 3-year project, and we were supposed to end in 2015. USAID asked us to continue to December of this year. For 2 additional years, it was extended, and I believe we are on to another. USAID wants to keep going. So, okay. But I don't think we're going to be going into perpetuity. So our intention really, a part of SEBI is to transition from a project into a social enterprise, perhaps social enterprise Jamaica. In the UK, for example, they lead the world on social enterprise, and they have been able to do that because they created a non-governmental organization, a central body that advocated for social enterprises, provided market connections and support. So we do intend to create such an organization that is able to continue to support the sector development. And we believe that we are perfectly placed to do that because we have a bit of agility. We are connected to a private sector organization. So we have that level of agility to get things done in a quicker way.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. So let me just thank Opal and Clifford for their presentation. Oh, there's a question. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yannick Rogers. I'm from the Scientific Research Council. And my question is for Mr. Spence. In the presentation, you mentioned that there is money, or you said if we have money to actually support social enterprises in Jamaica. I want to know what steps are being taken for that if, because it's a very big if. Is it that there is any kind of budgetary allocations that will be set aside for social enterprise development in Jamaica?
Yes, thanks for that question. Um, from the ministry's perspective, every year we produce our strategic plan, and this strategic plan responds to the important strategies that were put forward. And normally, it is normal that based on us prioritizing this sector and based on the fact that we prioritize the activities in this space, then budgetary allocations will be made.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward to that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, just follow up from the question that was just asked. Rest assured, social enterprises in Jamaica to stay, because really it is about people moving things forward. I think persons are sufficiently knowledgeable about how the model works, and people are motivated to organize themselves. The donor community, for example, are fully engaged. We have British Council on board, USAID on board, there's EU providing funding, the private sector is fully engaged, JN is fully on board, JN Foundation, Digicel is always there, and we are here really embracing the impact that social enterprise can have. The ministry has really provided great leadership to getting the institutionalization going, but I think Jamaica is at a point with social enterprise that there's no choice but to support social businesses.
Yeah, and I should add to the support that JCIF through its PRP4, using EU funding as well, is supporting the sector, particularly as it relates to capacity building and other policy support. So there is much that is being targeted to support the sector so that we can see the continual growth of the sector. All right, so.
As a follow-up to that question as well, the fact that that social enterprise is now included in a policy is not a simple document, as a plan that you can shelve. The fact that it is included within the national framework and is being submitted and agreed at the parliamentary level suggests that when we have priority activities in this space, it has to be looked at a different level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. All right, thank you, Opal and Clifford. So we have heard about the SEBI approach and we have heard about the policy framework. And now we want to invite the practitioners, the success models that we have. And so I'm going to invite the representatives from DEFCON, Alpha Institute, Mustard Seed Communities, and the New Horizon. I'm going to invite the 4 representatives to take the stage. Each of them will have 5 to 7 minutes to just make a quick presentation in terms of the work that they're doing, and they're going to be highlighting the main principles that they have been utilizing in success, and then we'll have some question and answers after. So welcome them for me, please.
Afternoon. I'm honored to be here with you this afternoon. My name is Tashai Whitmer. It's my name signed Tashai. So we're represented from DEFCON Coffee. I'm here with my husband Blake, and we're going to be sharing the story today. We're honored to be here with you this afternoon and share our story. Okay. So Our theme today is affirming a deaf can identity. When you think about going to the doctor, you're going to the doctor because you're sick, right? There's something wrong. And the doctor's going to give you a diagnosis. Now, that diagnosis is going to determine the treatment that you're going to take for whatever the doctor says is bothering you. So before any of us in this room do any of the work that we do, we have to make sure that we're getting the diagnosis right for our communities. And we can look at the underlying symptoms that we see on the surface, but we really have to get to the root issues. So today, what we're going to share from Deaf Can Coffee is what the root issue is facing the deaf community. And it's not a lack of hearing. It's about a lack of something else that they experience in their life. So first of all, what does affirmation mean? Somebody just tell me, what do you think of when you see that word? Not hearing anybody. Acknowledge the potential. I heard that. Acknowledge the potential that lies within somebody. So you have to recognize that something is there. Not focus on what isn't there, but focus on what is there. So another question, what do you see when you see this picture? You see trash? Okay. What do you think of when you think of the word deaf? When you see a deaf person, what's the first thing that you think of? Somebody who can't hear, right? Somebody who can't speak. That's the typical diagnosis that a deaf person receives at the community at large. We believe there's a different diagnosis that exists. Do you still just see a pile of junk? Do you still just see clutter? Do you still see something that needs to be fixed or cleaned up? Or do you see a masterpiece? So we believe that the power of perspective is incredibly important. And how you look at somebody and how you perceive somebody will dictate how you interact with them. It's the same going to the doctor. You have to get the diagnosis right. We don't believe a deaf person is somebody who needs fixed or cleaned up or that they're clutter. We believe they're made beautifully, made in the image of God, and somebody who, from the artist's perspective, is perfect and complete and lacks nothing. But typically, what happens when we think about a deaf person, we think of somebody who can't hear. But from deaf perspective, a deaf person can hear. I just use my eyes to hear it. And people think a deaf person can't speak. A deaf person can speak. I just use my hands through sign language to do it. Most people think a deaf person is somebody who can't. But we believe that a deaf person can do anything. Typically what happens is we look at this community and we say, oh, they're limited, they can't, let me do this for them. But this quote from Toxic Charity says clearly that when we do for others what they have the capacity to do for themselves, we disempower them. So doing things for other people that disempowers them, what we have to teach them is that you can do it and you can do it for yourself. We love this quote from C.S. Lewis that says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's just thinking about yourself less and becoming someone that can give to somebody else. So we believe that deaf people are made in the image of God, just like hearing people, and that there's no inferiority complex that exists. But from our deaf perspective, it's not about our lack of hearing. It's about a lack of something